The famous scientist Richard Dawkins wrote The Selfish Gene, which is a key work in the field of evolutionary biology. The book, which came out in 1976, popularized the idea that the gene is the basic unit of evolution. It also presented the idea that organisms are just vehicles for genes, which Dawkins portrayed as selfish beings that only want to live and spread. The book has 13 chapters, and each one talks about a different part of the selfish gene theory and what it means for how we understand the natural world. Chapter 1: Why Are People? In the first chapter, Dawkins introduces the concept of the replicator, a theoretical entity capable of making copies of itself. He explains that genes are replicators, and their primary goal is to propagate themselves through generations. Organisms are simply survival machines built by genes to ensure their own replication. Chapter 2: The Replicators. Dawkins delves deeper into the concept of replicators, explaining how genes are not the only replicators in the world. Other examples include computer viruses and cultural ideas, which he calls memes. He emphasizes the significance of competition between replicators in the process of natural selection. Chapter 3: Immortal Coils. This chapter focuses on the idea of the gene's eye view of evolution. Dawkins stresses that the primary unit of selection is the gene, not the individual organism, group, or species. He also introduces the concept of outlaw genes, which are genes that can potentially harm their host organisms. Chapter 4: The Gene Machine. Dawkins explains how genes build bodies to ensure their survival and replication. He highlights the concept of the phenotypic effect, which is the impact a gene has on the organism's appearance or behavior. This chapter also discusses how genes cooperate to create complex organisms. Chapter 5: Aggression, Stability, and the Selfish Machine. In this chapter, Dawkins examines the role of aggression in evolution, particularly in relation to the stability of ecosystems. He explains how aggressive behavior can be advantageous to the selfish gene, as it increases the likelihood of the gene's survival and propagation. Chapter 6: Genesmanship. Dawkins introduces the concept of genesmanship, which refers to the strategies and tactics genes use to outcompete their rivals. He discusses various examples, such as the evolutionary arms race between predators and prey, and the ways in which parasites manipulate their hosts. Chapter 7: Family Planning. This chapter explores the concept of kin selection and the role of the selfish gene in the context of family dynamics. Dawkins explains how an organism's behavior toward its relatives can be understood as a strategy for propagating its own genes. Chapter 8: Battle of the Generations. Dawkins examines the conflict between generations, focusing on the struggle between parents and offspring for resources. He discusses the concept of parental investment and how this can lead to conflicts of interest between genes in different generations. Chapter 9: Battle of the Sexes. In this chapter, Dawkins explores the concept of sexual selection and the ways in which genes compete for reproductive success. He discusses the different strategies employed by males and females, such as mate choice and competition. Chapter 10: You Scratch My Back, I'll Ride on Yours. Dawkins introduces the concept of reciprocal altruism, explaining how cooperation between unrelated individuals can be beneficial for selfish genes. He discusses examples of mutualism and cooperation in nature, such as cleaner fish and their clients. Chapter 11: Memes, the New Replicators. This chapter focuses on memes, the cultural equivalent of genes. Dawkins explains how ideas, beliefs, and behaviors can spread through human populations in a manner similar to genes. He discusses the process of memetic evolution and how it can lead to the emergence of cultural traits that may not always benefit the individual or the group but are advantageous to the meme itself. Chapter 12: Nice Guys Finish First. Dawkins challenges the notion that selfishness always prevails in the world of selfish genes. He introduces the concept of the iterated prisoner's dilemma, a game theory model that demonstrates how cooperative strategies can evolve and be stable in a competitive environment. Dawkins argues that altruism, cooperation, and other seemingly selfless behaviors can be advantageous to the selfish gene in certain circumstances. Chapter 13: The Long Reach of the Gene. In the final chapter, Dawkins summarizes the main ideas presented in the book and reflects on the implications of the selfish gene perspective for our understanding of the natural world. He argues that understanding the motivations of selfish genes can help us better appreciate the complexity of biological systems and the intricate interplay of cooperation and competition in the evolutionary process. The Selfish Gene by Richard Dawkins is a groundbreaking work that revolutionized our understanding of evolution and the role of genes as the driving force behind the process. By personifying genes as selfish entities striving for their own survival and propagation, Dawkins offers a fresh perspective on the complexity of the natural world and the intricate interplay of cooperation and competition that shapes the evolution of life on Earth. Throughout the book, Dawkins explores various concepts, such as kin selection, sexual selection, and reciprocal altruism, that demonstrate how seemingly selfless behaviors can actually be advantageous to the selfish gene. By examining these concepts and providing numerous examples from the natural world, Dawkins makes the case that the gene-centric view of evolution offers a more accurate and comprehensive understanding of the biological processes that shape life on our planet. The Selfish Gene is not only an essential read for those interested in evolutionary biology, but it also offers valuable insights into human behavior, culture, and society. By considering the motivations of selfish genes, we can better understand the complexity of our own nature and the often counterintuitive ways in which our behavior has been shaped by the relentless drive of genes to survive and replicate.